NFL mock draft. It's mock
Get
draft
to it.
season. It's draft season. The NFL draft is on Thursday, this Thursday. And right here we have, if you're watching on YouTube, we have the mock draft in front of us for PFF. And we're going to start this bad boy. Now, what we do have to come up with is who is going to get which pick. So who's getting the first pick, who's getting the second overall pick, and who's getting the third pick.
How about
Hmm.
since my Denver Broncos do not have a pick in this year's first round, I would love if you guys would do me the luxury of allowing me to select first overall. Would that be all right with y'all?
We could do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, I appreciate that.
What do you want, Joel? 2 or 3? I don't have a preference.
Listen, 2, 3. Uh, mm, I'm going to go with 2.
Okay, I think that's the harder of the 2 picks. So go for it.
I'm going to go with 2. And I don't feel like doing a snake draft. We could if you guys want to. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. So first pick in the NFL draft, who are you picking, Drew?
Are you gonna hit my music, or that doesn't exist right now?
It doesn't exist right now.
We don't have music.
I'm absolutely
We're down
gutted.
bad.
I'm gutted. So with the first overall pick, the Carolina Panthers will be selecting their franchise quarterback, Bryce Young, out of Alabama. This is the obvious selection here. The rumors have been circulating recently that it's almost foregone conclusion Bryce Young will be the quarterback after a couple of weeks of believing that C.J. Stroud was going to be the quarterback. Bryce Young, to me, is the obvious candidate. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft, so I'm going to be selecting him number 1.
And when it comes to this draft, should we do any trades?
I was thinking
Sure.
about it, actually, but I feel like we're going to get too complicated. You're on a time crunch. Let's not get too crazy.
We could do trades if you guys want to. So if you guys want to trade up to a pick, you can. Houston Texans, right now with PFF, there's 10 trade options. I'm not trying to do any of that. Now, when it comes to the Texans, all the rumors have been pointing to CJ Stroud dropping the draft. Right now, Will Levis is the favorite to go second overall. I don't think Will Levis is going to be the pick. I would be shocked if he is the pick. I'm going to go with the best defensive player in this draft. I know that there are concerns off the field, but I think Jalen Carter is the best defensive player in this draft.
Whoa.
And I'm going to select second overall.
Over Will Anderson.
Yeah.
The only reason why I say Will Anderson is because it seems as if he is the more safe selection here. No issues off the field. Obviously a great prospect himself. Jalen Carter, I understand that the talent's there, but I wonder if NFL franchises are going to be hesitant due to off-the-field issues.
I look at today's NFL, and I think that interior defensive linemen have been more valuable than edge rushers as of late because they can impact the game more. And Jalen Carter, I know that he has off-the-field issues, but listen, man, this guy is going to drop as far as 5, if anything. There's no way he gets past 5 to Seattle.
Apparently, the Seahawks aren't interested in Jalen Carter anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard some different rumors, but I think
it's draft season.
Yeah.
We're all going to hear different things, so I get where you're coming from.
I think 5 or 6 is going to be where he lands, and if I draft him at 2, I don't think that's overvaluing him. And this guy was the best player on a Georgia defense that was stacked. I think that he's the best player. He's going to be the best defense player in this draft. That's just my opinion.
I mean, he's definitely a talent there. Yeah.
He's 20, 21, 22, however old. He made a terrible mistake, but you got to hope that he could just move past it, realize it, and going forward, he could play some of his best football. I'm on the clock now with number 3 pick. I have the Cardinals. If we are doing trades, the first thing I'm doing is calling up a team that's a little far down the board. They're at 11, the Tennessee Titans. There's been rumors for months now that they're interested in trading up to get a quarterback. So if they were interested, the Cardinals could get 2 first-round picks, probably 2 second-round picks, a couple day 3 picks, because this team is terrible right now. So if I'm the Cardinals, I would be trying to move down. If we want to do that, I think I would project a trade here if we're able to get that to go through.
Okay, cool. We'll do a trade with the Tennessee Titans, correct?
Yeah. So we're moving down from 3 to 11. Just pick up all the draft capital and be even worse this year.
Okay, so I'm going to have the trade go through. I don't, for some reason. Let me just add in more picks.
Yeah,
My goodness.
just make it work.
And hit
But
force
in this
this trade.
case,
Hit
in this
force
case,
this
I'm
trade.
saying,
You're right.
in
All
this
right.
case, we'll say it's 2 firsts, 2 seconds, maybe a day 3 pick. Moving up from 11 to 3 is a huge jump.
Yeah.
You don't give up that much capital unless you're taking a quarterback. Tennessee Titans, they still have Derrick Henry. They want to run the ball with Vrabel. It's a hard, tough-nosed team. I think they're going to go with the pocket passer here, though, and go with C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud, number 3 to the Tennessee Titans. Very interesting pick. Now we know Indianapolis at 4 also is quarterback needy. Drew, you have that pick. Is
I
it
do.
Will Levis?
In my opinion, I do believe with the recent rumors, I think Will Levis will be the number 2 selection overall. With our current board, I guess people believe that C.J. Stroud is not a lock to be a top 5 quarterback anymore. In my opinion, I think C.J. Stroud is the locked and loaded number 2 quarterback in this draft. And I believe that the Colts would be absolutely foolish to pass on a quarterback here. Obviously, Joel making the right decision, taking C.J. Stroud at 3. That would have been my move as well. But for number 4, I'm the Colts. I need a quarterback. I'm going with Anthony Richardson. I mean, I believe that this guy has the highest ceiling of these quarterbacks if they were to all reach their highest potential. I understand that he's not the most NFL ready. I look at Bryce. I look at CJ as more NFL ready. This is a guy that's going to probably sit for an entire season, but be ready next year to play prime football. This is one of the better athletes at the quarterback position that we've seen come out of a draft, maybe ever. So if I'm the Colts, I can't pass on that talent.
The number 5 overall pick. I was going to think about Anthony Richardson here. I think he'd be a Seattle guy. But I do think the Seahawks go defense. And it's between Will Anderson to me and Tyree Wilson, who isn't even rated that high on PFF right now. But I do believe he is somebody that they're going to look at for the sole reason that the Seahawks are a traits team. The Seahawks value traits more than what a player is right now. And although I think that Will Anderson is the better player right now, I think Tyree Wilson has more potential to be better. So with the 5th overall pick, I'm going to go with Tyree Wilson at edge.
What's going on with your disdain for Mr. Anderson? I'm absolutely I'm very curious.
Passed on him twice.
Well, Jalen Carter is better than Will Anderson. I don't think that's a question.
This one specifically, Will Anderson, it's seeming as if he has been for months now, top 2, top 3, guaranteed, unless obviously these guys go quarterback. And defensive player wise, he's number 1 or number 2 off the board. So to see him now potentially, most likely, be 3, unless Joel throws us the curveball and takes a corner here.
Well, the only way Will Anderson is the first player selected off the board is because of Jalen Carter's off the field issues. Jalen Carter's a better player, and there are a lot of teams that have Tyree Wilson rated over Anderson on their draft boards. I think he's more of a traits guy, and I believe in Seattle to develop those type of players. Tariq Woolen was not a polished prospect; he was a traits guy, and they developed him. So I think that they can do the same thing with Tyree Wilson.
All right,
Joey. I respect it. Number 6, this is pretty easy. I understand the argument for corner here. They picked up a couple in free agency, but they're more Band-Aids than actual corners that are going to be there long-term with Cameron Sutton and a couple of those other guys. But I see Will Anderson on the board, and he's going to be my pick. This is kind of a no-brainer. I think the Lions would rush up to the podium to make this selection. Will Anderson, 3-year starter at Alabama. I mean, last year people were saying he consensus number 1 overall pick. There might be some prospect fatigue there. Had over 200 pressures at Bama over those 3 years. And you pair him with Aiden Hutchinson, all of a sudden you have arguably the best young pass rushing duo in the NFL.
So that means that I'm up right now on the clock with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders, they need a lot. Obviously, they need a quarterback. You need all line. They need a bunch of defensive help, both in the secondary and on the line. This becomes tricky because, again, I personally am not a Will Levis fan. I think that obviously the hype behind him recently has been shocking to me personally. And I feel if I'm the Raiders, I try and do my best to be bad next season to try and be in the running for a Mr. Caleb Williams. and understanding that they need help on the offensive line pretty terribly, I'm going to go with Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern guard. This guy, to me, is the best offensive lineman in this draft. The Raiders desperately need offensive line help. I think that Will Levis, we'll see. I could be wrong about it, but that's not a quarterback that I would want to be my franchise or have the keys to be my franchise quarterback, because to me, I just don't see it. He just has his game to be a little bit – his game needs to be more refined, and my offensive line needs help if I'm the Raiders.
And I don't know if McDaniels wants a rookie quarterback. I know all of the rumors has been tied Levis to, I guess, Indy, but also Las Vegas. But you just paid Garoppolo pretty good money. I know not a ton of guaranteed, but decent money. McDaniels probably wants to win year in, year two. You got Devontae Adams there, you just traded for. Move off Derek Carr. I know we think they're rebuilding, but I think McDaniels probably feels some pressure to win, especially after a disappointing season. So I agree with this pick, Drew. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I do think they would go with tackle or another position.
I think it's for them. It's cornerback or tackle. I would have went with Davon Witherspoon. I think that he can be an elite cornerback. The Falcons is a tricky pick because I think the Falcons believe in Desmond Ridder. I think that Arthur Smith believes he can run an offense effectively. You saw the moves they made in the offseason, strengthening up that defense. They did release Casey Hayward, so it does make a corner at this pick intriguing. But JSN is also here. He's intriguing as well because now you'd have Drake London, JSN, and Kyle Pitts. But you know what, man? I think that when it comes to the Falcons, when it comes to Arthur Smith in Tennessee had a lot of success with Derrick Henry. And although Tyler Algier had a good rookie season, I think Bijan Robinson can be a game-breaking running back for Atlanta.
You're buying into the hype.
That is just not my – I get where you're coming from. He's obviously the generational talent here, and it's seeming as if I've had an issue with every single selection of yours, and I apologize for this. But Bijan, when Tyler Algier just did a job, he did more than fine. They were the number 3 rush offense this season. Running back is not a position of need if you're the Atlanta Falcons. You have to understand that there's other holes on this squad. I would have loved if you would have went JSN or your boy Zay Flowers, because they do need that guy opposite of Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts, they do need help on the offensive line. We see him more as a blocker, or we saw him more as a blocker this year. That shouldn't be the case, but that now allows you the flexibility that you have more weapons to have at Desmond Ridder's disclosure. So Bijan is not the ideal selection for me. I've been upset at these reports, but if you're going by what you think will happen, I understand, because a lot of rumors, a lot of hype behind Bijan going to the Falcons seems to be real.
When it comes to Atlanta's offense, the run offense in particular, it thrived when Marcus Mariota was a quarterback because of the threat he has to run. Desmond Ridder doesn't offer that same skill set, and I think that Bijan Robinson is a game-breaking player for your offense. Tyler Algier had a good rookie season. Maybe, he becomes even better than we think. But Bijan is somebody that can turn your offense around. And I understand the argument that running backs aren't valuable in today's NFL. I think that's true to a certain degree. But we just saw the New York Giants with an average quarterback make the playoffs because the running back carried the offense. I think with Atlanta, they do have weapons. Drake London could be a wide receiver number 1. Kyle Pitts can be the first receiving option on the team. I don't think receiver is a need. If I didn't go Bijan, I would have went with edge rusher, and I would have went with Nolan Smith here because they do need an edge. But it's between those two for me.
I think Atlanta's also probably wanting to trade down if they could, thinking they could get Bijan at 12, 13, whoever wants to trade down, maybe the Patriots at 14, Houston at 12 if they're scared someone might take JSN or something like that. But Bijan's interesting because, like you guys said, they're predicated on the run game. Arthur Smith, great, play caller, designer. But Bijan, I think the upgrade you get from Tyler Algier makes those 4 or 5 yard carries. You're going to get a lot more explosive plays. A lot of plays that are usually 5 yards for Algier could turn to 10 yards for Bijan Robinson. So it's high for a running back, but I think if anyone's worth it, it's him. Number 9, Chicago Bears. This has been mocked. If you follow mocks, it's pretty easy. We have one tackle off the board, right? We have Skoronski off.
Skoronski, he's a guard.
Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah, he could play tackle or guard. I'm
Apparently,
taking
they're
Paris
saying
Johnson
next
here.
level that Skoronski is probably going to be a guard because he doesn't have
his
the
arms
size
are
to play
short.
tackle. Yeah,
His arms are short, but I think if you're taking him at 7, he's probably going to play tackle.
fair enough.
But it's good to have the versatility. At 9, I will be taking Paris Johnson,
I like it.
tackle. Ohio State could reunite with his boy Justin Fields. Only real concern, I think, is he only has 1 year of experience at tackle, but last year only allowed 14 pressures on 449 pass blocking snaps. So only that 1 year of experience, but in that 1 year, he was really good. And obviously the Bears need offensive line help desperately, so I think this is a bit of a no-brainer.
No doubt. Paris Johnson is such a high-touted prospect that the Steelers are even contemplating trading up high in this draft to acquire him because they want to add additional help to that offensive line. But here I am with the 10th pick with the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully I do right for Rivs Eagles and, of course, Joel's Jalen Hurts. I don't know what you want me to say there, King. But regardless of that fact, I don't believe that they're saying that a need of theirs is wide receiver. Personally, I don't believe so. You have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins proved to do more than enough job. Dallas Goedert is a fine tight end option. To me, if I'm the Eagles, I'm either going offensive line, understanding that your guys are getting older. There's positions that might be retiring soon. But for me, I think that with the fact that we saw their secondary kind of get torched in that Super Bowl game, it not be as great as we've seen all season long, where a lot of that was carried by their defensive line and how efficient it was, being a team that had every member of that defensive line have over 10 sacks. I think that I tweeted this earlier, that I think a corner will be selected here by the Philadelphia Eagles. And if neither Witherspoon or Gonzalez are available, I think that if I'm the Eagles, I'm trading back, because the Eagles have shown that they have a willingness to trade back, to acquire picks, to move back and go into next year's draft with a potentially better draft pick. So for me, I'm going to be going with Christian Gonzalez. I believe that he is the best corner in this draft. He put on a show at the Combine. I firmly just believe this guy has all the tools to be a future cornerback one in this scenario. He doesn't have to be that right away. And when you're drafting him with the top 10 pick and with the physical attributes that he has, I think this guy will be special and fits perfectly with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Now, Dehls, because you were the one to trade back at this pick when you had the original pick for Arizona, you can have the luxury of making this pick, Dehls.
This is interesting. The Cardinals, like we talked about, they need everything, right? Christian Gonzalez just got taken off the board. I'm just following along on my own mock draft here. So if I'm the Cardinals here, it's probably best player available. DeAndre Hopkins is likely getting traded, so wide receiver is pretty thin. You have Devon Witherspoon on the board. You have obviously a bunch of defensive players, Nolan Smith. Not a ton I love, actually. Miles Murphy. You got some corners, some tackles.
They just traded Byron Murphy,
I was
going to say, what?
Don't have him anymore.
Make it easy. Take Witherspoon.
I think you probably go best player available. For me, it's between Devon Witherspoon and JSN.
Facts.
But I think in this situation, you go with Witherspoon. I think it's just a bit easier probably to find a receiver day 2. You have Hollywood there still. They like Rondell Moore, even though he hasn't shown a ton. They like him. And I would rather take the chance on a cornerback 1 because receivers are just generally easier to find.
Now, because we swapped those picks, I have the 12th overall pick. And this is very easy for me. I understand the intrigue with JSN here, but the second overall pick was Jalen Carter. And right now, the quarterback to be rumored going second overall, he's the favorite, is Will Levis. Well, he's dropped all the way to 12. I think at the 12th overall pick, with Richardson, Stroud, and Bryce Young off the board, the Texans go with the quarterback they wanted all along, Will Levis.
I think the draft board worked out absolutely amazing for you there. You get Carter, arguably the best defensive player in this draft. You get Will Levis, the quarterback. It's seeming the Texans want to be their franchise guy. You hit a home run there. So for me, pick 13, the pick that was acquired by the Packers in the blockbuster Aaron Rodgers deal that we're going to talk about a little bit later on this show, that's leaving them with positions now that I believe that they're saying quarterbacks in need. I don't believe so. I believe the faith is in Jordan Love. Although LaFleur coming out and saying that we need to temper expectations with Jordan Love was not something that I loved hearing. But regardless, I think that they do need wide receiver help, someone to pair next to Christian Watson, who's shown that he could be a deep threat burner. And with the loss of Allen Lazard, I think that the selection here has to be JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. To me, this is the wide receiver one. I've been saying this all along. I believe that he's the best route runner. His lack of speed, it's really average, and I believe at his best, it'll probably get to slightly above average. But regardless, his pristine route running, I think it makes him the best wide receiver in this draft and the most safe, the lowest floor, the highest floor, I should say, is Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I did a little chess move there because I knew that if Drew had the Texans pick, he was probably going JSN, and I wanted the Packers to get JSN. So I did a little chess move, take Levis off the board.
Worked out. No doubt.
And have Jordan Love. I mean, listen,
I was never taking Will Levis at 13. No way. That would have been a smack in the face.
Wasn't happening.
No.
And now listen, JSN, Watson, Jordan Love, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones. We're going to talk about that later, but my goodness.
Yeah, that'd be hot.
It's a nice team.
Looking at the Patriots. Are you picking for the Patriots, Dehls? This is you, Dehls. This is you.
This is me? Oh,
pick for New England.
Yeah, great. I mean, should just give them fucking God, I don't know, Ryan Hayes, tackle for Michigan. No. 14, New England on the clock. They're saying their needs are quarterback, tackle, and edge. I don't think quarterback's a need. Seems like Mac Jones, they're sticking with it. Defense, I trust Bill Belichick to figure it out. So it's probably offensive line or receiver/tight end. They desperately need a weapon here. I think I'm going to limit it to receiver or tight end. It's really your pick on what type of flavor receiver do you want. Do you want the big body wide receiver in Quentin Johnston? Do you want the smaller, more versatile, possibly faster receiver in Zay Flowers? I know we have Jordan Addison here too. And then lastly is probably tight end, a guy like Michael Mayer, who's probably the best all-around tight end, or kind of an in-between type guy, maybe like Dalton Kincaid, who may have shades of like an Aaron Hernandez type. I think in this situation, I'll be going receiver, and someone who's flown up all of the boards has been Zay Flowers out of Boston College.
Okay.
So that's where I'll go here at 14.
That's a good pick.
I like that selection.
I do think that when draft comes around, I do think that Zay Flowers will be the first wide receiver selected off the board. That's just my gut feeling about Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is going to be a great receiver in the NFL. Now, pick 15 for the New York Jets.
Who are we going with, man?
Are you guys going to collaborate? Are you guys going to collaborate?
Really,
the needs are tackle and linebacker. I think that there's another need here that isn't being listed. I think that edge is also a need because of Carl Lawson's mediocre production last season. He's eventually going to be gone. He's going to have a huge cap hit. I do think that Nolan Smith wouldn't be a bad pick here, or Kalijah Kancey. Defensive line, we have to pay Quentin Williams soon. Who knows how those negotiations will work out? Kalijah Kancey is a great prospect. I'm very high on Kalijah Kancey. Looking at the offensive tackles, Broderick Jones out of Georgia, Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. I look at Tennessee, it's more pass-heavy offense.
Yep.
He was tested more than Broderick Jones. I'm going to go with Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, protecting Hendon Hooker, now going to protect Aaron Rodgers in New York.
Okay. I like that. Tackle is definitely the move here for the Jets. I know you moved down from 13 to 15, but the way this board went, didn't have a ton of tackles go, only 2 in the top 14, so the Jets would be licking their chops there.
So that means that I have the 16th selection with the Washington Commanders. And this is a team that is an interesting one because I do believe that they do need a quarterback, but it's seeming as if they're not primed to select a quarterback this year. They're looking as if they're okay with Sam Howell being their quarterback this year. They do have Jacoby Brissett, correct, if I'm not mistaken, as their quarterback as well. So I don't think that they'll try to address it in this draft, maybe in rounds 3-4, who knows. Hendon Hooker would be intriguing here. There's reports that he might not drop outside top 15. So this Hendon Hooker definitely did come to mind, but I look at the Commanders and I think that their secondary is not that great. They definitely need cornerback help, and Joey Porter is that guy for me. I'm going to select Joey Porter here. I believe that he just has great. This cornerback class is great regardless. I think we're going to see maybe 5, potentially 6 corners drafted in the first round. That's how great of a talent they are. But regardless, I think Joey Porter is the next best available corner. Great speed, great physicality. I'm going with Joey at pick 16.
Steelers, pick 17, Dehls.
Do him right. You know,
So-
Jared's going to be upset if you don't do him right.
This makes it a bit easier because the Steelers, I think their biggest needs, in this case, PFF got it right, tackle and DB. They always take linebackers, so they're going to have it as needed because they always take a linebacker early. But I'm looking at tackle right now, and I see two guys on the board, then a bit of a teardrop. I'm looking at Broderick Jones. I'm looking at Anton Harrison. And it's hard to say which way the Steelers would go here. Broderick Jones, I believe, started all 3 years at Georgia. Yeah, or 2 years, I guess. His freshman year, only had 20 snaps at right tackle. I think they would go with Broderick Jones in this case. I know his biggest trait is his mentality. He's just kind of like a bully. He's just more like will and power. And I think that's where the Steelers would go in this case. But I think if Porter's off the board and all the other corners that went, tackle would be the selection here.
18th overall pick. Will Anderson went off the board for the Lions. They have him now. They have James Houston, Aiden Hutchinson, and Will Anderson.
Is this where you go your boy Dalton?
I'm thinking about Kalijah Kancey here, defensive line.
Okay.
I think he would be a great pick for them. But then I look at the Lions offense. I do like their running back room. David Montgomery's a good back, although he's now a bit injury prone. I like Amon-Ra. Jameson Williams is suspended 6 games now. Outside of Amon-Ra, who is the Lions' next best weapon? That's a question mark. They lost DJ Chark.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, and because of that,
You have no respect.
I'm going with Dalton Kincaid.
Kincaid.
I think Dalton Kincaid has to be this pick.
That's what I thought.
Give them tight end help. Their tight end right now is Brock Wright. I think Kincaid is the pick there. But
All right,
it sucked passing on Kalijah Kancey because I think Kalijah Kancey he has Pro Bowler written all over him. I think he's going to be this type of player.
All right, and I'm at pick 19 right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team that needs a lot, respectfully. Now with Tom Brady out, and obviously they've had retirements. Their offensive line got very injured last season. They need help on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like here's where I believe Hendon Hooker is going to be selected. And with the rumors of Hendon Hooker being taken in the first round, top 15, I feel like the Bucs with their situation, whereas it's Baker Mayfield, it's Kyle Trask. It's not an ideal situation if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You take your shot with Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker has the physical traits to be a solid quarterback. You don't have to play him year one. Allow him to continue to recover if he needs that time from his lower extremity injury. And I believe that Hendon Hooker has the tools to be a solid quarterback. And if not, it's pick 19. You're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You understand you accomplished what you needed to accomplish a couple years ago, winning a Super Bowl. And I believe that this team just needs a piece, especially now that Brady's out. You option that quarterback, and I believe it's Hendon Hooker.
Okay, Hendon Hooker. I have not seen him mocked too often to Tampa Bay. I got the 20th pick here with Seattle. At pick 5, they went Tyree Wilson. I wouldn't put it past them to double up on the defensive line. We saw last year they doubled up on the offensive line. Obviously not both in round 1 here, but it might sound crazy. I think receiver is a bit of a need for them as well. You have Lockett and you have DK, but outside of that, you really don't have anything offensively outside of Kenneth Walker, of course, our running back who was banged up this past season. You got Noah Fant, who they like, but I think Noah Fant is just who he is. He's a solid tight end, but nothing special. So to me, this pick really comes down to Jordan Addison, who could be wide receiver 3, and eventual Tyler Lockett replacement. Or it comes down to Kalijah Kancey, the defensive lineman out of Pitt. I know he's getting a lot of Aaron Donald comps for being 6 foot, 280, kind of undersized here. In this case, I think Pete Carroll will go with the defensive side, go with Kancey, and beef up that interior defensive line.
Joel, I cannot hear you for hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got really quiet.
I was muted. My bad. I said Kancey and Tyree Wilson. I like that a lot, Dehls. Now, Chargers are on the clock. How rich? Man, I really wish Zay Flowers made it this far because it would have made this pick easy. I think that the obvious need for the Chargers is wide receiver. Quentin Johnson to me feels like Mike Williams prototype.
Agreed.
So I don't want to go that route. Jordan Addison is not a burner. right now I look at the receivers on the board.
I think you know
And
which one.
there's nobody that is worth the first round pick. So if
Here
I'm
he
the
goes.
Chargers, I'm passing up on wide receiver in the first round. I'm gonna draft like a Marvin Mims in the second or third. So I'm not going receiver here. I look at the Chargers. Corner help they do need some corner help. Man, this is a tough pick. This is a very tough pick. Man, I'm stuck, man. I'm stuck. Outside of Joey Bosa, who's a Chargers edge rusher?
Khalil Mack,
got
or
Mack.
unless they cut him. They didn't, or they're gonna. I remember there were rumors of cutting him
Yeah,
for
but
cap
I think
casualties.
I think he restructured.
Facts.
You know what, man? I don't know.
Deontay Banks would not be a bad selection.
Yeah, Banks.
It's
super
tough.
fast.
It's tough.
Or honestly,
athlete.
with all your disdain for Mr. Austin Eckler, Jahmyr Gibbs isn't entering your mind right now.
Not this high. No.
You're taking Bijan in top 8. I mean,
Pick 8.
Jahmyr Gibbs is still a fine talent regardless.
To me, I'm going with Nolan Smith, Deontay Banks, or even Michael Mayer. I think Michael Mayer is also an option here.
Okay.
Damn it. You know what, man? I'm going to go with the traits guy. I'm going to go with the Nolan Smith here.
That's a good selection because that was most definitely where I was going to go with Baltimore. They definitely would like an edge presence there. Given the fact that their defense was phenomenal last season, you add a little bit more pressure to it. Just for the fact that Nolan kept dropping down, it was just too intriguing for me to pass up on. But Baltimore needs a wide receiver. And I understand that they just brought an OBJ. The hope is that Rashad Bateman is going to be healthy. Mark Andrews is there as well, of course, one of the best tight ends in the game. But that doesn't mean anything to me, with all due respect. And people may think that I should take a corner here, given the fact that Humphrey and Peters, they're getting a little bit older. Deontay Banks is right there. That's definitely one of the names that's intriguing me. Jordan Addison and Quinn Johnston, I feel like one of these two guys have to come off the board. And for me, I'm going my wide receiver too. I'm going with Jordan Addison. I just think that he's a more refined, the second best refined route runner in this class. He had an unbelievable sophomore season. Was pretty disappointing this year, but he had an ankle injury that kind of nagged him, that forced him to miss a couple of games as well. But I believe in the talent of Jordan Addison. That would be my selection at pick 22.
Minnesota Vikings, Dehls.
Yeah, Drew, you made my life a lot easier because I was also between Addison and Quentin Johnson here for the Vikings.
What about
Defensively,
Hyatt?
The Vikings have a ton of holes. Hyatt, yeah, but I think the Vikings defensively have a ton of holes. But receiver, now that Thielen's gone, it was a need with Adam Thielen. He is cooked, if we're being quite honest with each other. Now Adam Thielen is gone. KJ Osborne is your wide receiver too. So I think Quentin Johnson pairs pretty perfectly with Justin Jefferson. You have your prototypical X receiver. Jefferson can be moved all over the field, and now you have a legitimate number 2 weapon to replace Adam Thielen.
Jacksonville Jaguars, pick 24. I like that pick.
I should have been selfish. I should have been selfish and thought about my Giants at 25. Fuck.
Now, I'm looking at the Jaguars. I don't think safety's a need, although I do love Brian Branch. I think they have that position covered. Miles Murphy could be an option here. I do like Josh Allen a lot, but they do need an edge opposite of Josh Allen. And they need corner. I like Tyson Campbell. He's a CB1. But Shaq Griffin was underwhelming. He has not lived up to his contract. I'm going to pick between Anton Harrison or Deontay Banks here because they also lost Jawan Taylor to the Kansas City Chiefs. And based on their need, based on what I think is more important, I think it's more important to protect Trevor Lawrence than it is to get a secondary player. So I'm going to go with Anton Harrison here.
And this is great because I believe that the Giants need secondary help terribly. Although I would have loved if one of the higher end wide receivers had dropped, one of the top 4 had dropped to the Giants. I'm sure the Giants would love that too. That's just unfortunately the way that the board broke. So Deontay Banks is going to be my selection here out of Maryland. The Giants desperately need secondary help. It was a huge reason why their season came to an end. Well, one of the main reasons. Let's just say there's all around they could have done a lot of things better, but that defense needs help. They overachieved last year, and with Deontay Banks, it gets a jump start to that secondary that they desperately need.
Okay, I like that. So we have Harrison going there. Okay, sorry, just trying to update my board here. The Cowboys at pick 26, Running backs are number one need, according to PFF, defensive line, linebacker, and corner. I'm looking at the corner class right now. I think there's a bit. You have Deontay Banks there, but you just traded for Gilmore, so I don't know why that's need. Now I'm thinking about it. Linebacker, I think it's a bit too early. I don't know if anyone's worth a first-round pick at linebacker in this draft. Defensive line, at least in the interior right now, I don't know if there's a ton of options you're selecting at this. Maybe Brian Brzee from Clemson. I'm looking at tight ends, and I'm considering running back as well.
I was going to say Jameer has got to be on your radar.
Option. He's interesting because the Pollard injury, franchise tag, you're probably not paying him long term. And obviously Zeke Elliott, he's still a free agent. He didn't sign anywhere. I didn't miss that, right? But I think in this case, the Cowboys are going to go with probably the best overall tight end and select Michael Mayer. Get a guy who could block. I don't think Jake Ferguson, who showed some flashes, should be your starting tight end. So get Michael Mayer. You know he's going to be a top 10, top 8 tight end. Maybe he doesn't ever reach that top 5, top 3 ceiling. But if he's able to be a plus blocker and he give you that receiving work, I think he's worth it here at 26.
I think that's a great pick. After losing Dalton Schultz, they need a tight end. Buffalo Bills, defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback. Trey White is getting older. Von Miller, although he feels their edge need, last year he did get injured due to he got injured and he missed the rest of the season, and that really hampered the Bills' defensive line. So I think that defensive end should be considered here. They also need a receiver, but there's no receiver in the first round. I think that's worth taking.
Respect Jalen.
At this pick, you know what? I'm going to give some defensive line help to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Miles Murphy here. I'm going with Miles Murphy.
Okay. So, Drew, you're on the clock with Cincinnati.
All right. So that means that the Cincinnati Bengals, they have needs. One is tight end. Obviously, I would have liked to have Mayer at that selection, Kincaid, but both those guys are gone. To me, my selection was made easy, though. They do need some secondary help, especially with Jesse Bates now being on the move.
You still have Kincaid on the board.
No, he's gone.
No, Dalton Kincaid got selected. Facts.
Oh, I missed that.
Brian Branch would be a good pick here.
Brian Branch, exactly. Brian Branch will be my selection. I believe he's the best safety available in this draft for the Bengals to get him at pick 28 when that is arguably their biggest need. I feel like that's a home run selection for them.
Okay. So we have the Saints on the clock now. Saints have a lot of needs. I think their interior of their offensive line could use some help. You drafted Trevor Penning last year. He got hurt and really barely played. His most snaps was week 18, so he really didn't get much work at all. You look at the receivers, it's a pretty weak room. Olave was great, but what are you getting from Michael Thomas? And there's really nothing behind that. There's a few different ways you can go here. If I'm looking best player available, it's definitely edge. Miles Murphy, Lucas Van Ness. Those are the two names
Van
that
Ness has
stick
dropped.
Has stick out the most. Yeah, and I'm looking at Van Ness, and this is probably where the slide ends. He's one of the best in terms of combination of like speed and power. He wasn't a full-time starter at Iowa, which was kind of weird because he's really good. But I think he'll be able to come in and rush the passer really well. I know they got Cameron Jordan, but you can never have too many edge rushers.
Not to mention Marcus Davenport signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's a clear need for them. Philadelphia Eagles, pick 30. I'm going to make it easy. Isaac Samalu left in free agency to Pittsburgh. I'm going with Osiris Torrance out of Florida. I'm going to make it easy.
So that means you're giving me pick 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. The need for them is wide receiver. I don't care what anyone tells you. They need a wide receiver. I understand Mahomes makes any weapon of his great. And to me, the perfect option for him is Jalen Hyatt. You give Mahomes Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt is an obvious burner. People's biggest issue with Hyatt is that they're concerned with his route tree. Well, you pair him with Patrick Mahomes and you tell him to go deep. He'll get there, and Mahomes will put the ball right in stride for him. I think that'd be a great combination, especially at the last pick of the first round. Hyatt would be a solid selection.
So looking at our draft, that is the picks right there. I'm trying to zoom out. Yeah, I'm trying to zoom out there.
guess you only get graded if you have like one pick.
Yeah. So I downloaded the image. I'll post it on Twitter later on today. But that's our mock draft. So number 1, Bryce Young to Carolina. Number 2, Jalen Carter to Houston. Number 3, CJ Stroud to Tennessee. They trade up and get their quarterback. Number 4, Richardson to the Colts. Number 5, Tyree Wilson. Will Anderson falls to 6 to the Lions. Peter Skoronski to the Raiders at 7. Bijan Robinson at 8 to the Falcons. Paris Johnson to the Chicago Bears. Eagles select Christian Gonzalez. Cardinals select Devon Witherspoon. The Texans select Will Levis. Packers go with JSN. Patriots go Zay Flowers. Jets go Darnell Wright. Washington goes Joey Porter Jr. Steelers go Broderick Jones. Lions go Dalton Kincaid. 19, the Bucks go with Hendon Hooker. 20, Seahawks Kalijah Kancey filling up their defensive line. 21, Chargers Nolan Smith. 22, Jordan Addison. 23 with the Vikings, Quentin Johnson. 24, Jaguars go Anton Harrison. 25, Giants go Deontay Banks. 26, Cowboys go Michael Mayer. 27, Bills go Miles Murphy. 28, the Bengals get a steal in Brian Branch. 29, Saints go with Lucas Van Ness. 30, Eagles go with Osiris Torrance. And 31, Chiefs go with Jalen Hyatt. And that is our 2023 NFL mock draft for the first round of the draft.
The only thing that bites here is that we couldn't get my New York Football Giants a wide receiver, man. And in round 2,
I think isn't there a report that they're comfortable with their wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't know why that would even be a report. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's because they know Paris Campbell's nice.
Oh my God. Get Riv up on here. Thank you. Where's
Mr.
John?
Brown? What'd you think of the mock? Who we get the Eagles taking?
We got them Gonzalez.
Corner. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was amazing. Yeah.
Got you, baby.
You
I didn't hear
agree
that.
with the corner and the guard?
I'll be honest, I didn't hear that shit at all.
Okay. We took you a corner at 10 and a guard at 30.
Offensive line?
Guard at 30.
We could have picked the guard in the 6th round and he'd have been Hall of Famer, bro. Come on.
You're not wrong. Not wrong.
What are we doing here? Like,
You got a point.
Now, John,
What do you think of Pittsburgh?
Broderick Jones, is he a right tackle?
He played left, I believe. Let me check.
If he has
Did he
tools,
play
that's
right?
good.
I don't know.
But whatever Omar Khan does on Thursday, it's going to be the start of a Steelers Super Bowl run. So that's all I know.
come
He played
on,
left
John.
tackle, yeah. He played
I
a
do
little
think
bit
they
of
might
right
trade up,
tackle.
though, in all
He played
seriousness.
a little bit of right tackle his freshman year, but left tackle his sophomore, junior year.
I think
Yeah,
your
he's gonna
Steelers
replace
need a
Cam
corner more than anything.
Oh,
I
big time.
understand. Yeah, I understand going O-line, but I feel
need
like they need a
everything.
corner. Yeah, I mean that's not cap.
So now I have this graphic here. Before we go on to the next topic, we got to talk about Mojo just a bit. Because on Mojo currently, Will Levis in the last month is up 22%.
Damn.
Insane.
And if you guys don't know how Mojo works, Mojo is a sports stock market, and players go up based off of their performance, but also news. And because Will Levis has been projected to be the 2nd overall pick, that's what's led to this gigantic rise. So I'm asking you guys, Will Levis, are you buying this gigantic rise? He was the 4th, 5th rated quarterback on most people boards. Now he's the favorite to go 2nd overall to the Houston Texans. Do you think that it was warranted?
For me, this is not the number 2 overall selection. The number 2 overall selection should be CJ Stroud. And if it's not going to be CJ Stroud, it needs to be Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. So for it to be Will Levis and for him to recently get this insane amount of hype behind his name, that's tough, especially when we've seen a couple of his workouts and his throwing, which he's supposed to have this massive arm, which credit to him, he does, but he's just not accurate. He lacks the finesse. So he's a guy who needs to work on the little things. He's a guy that needs refinement. That's the word that I'm looking at. He most likely will be sitting a year. So it'll be very interesting to see how he plays in year 2. I guess you do look at the Houston Texans. If they are the team that selects them, they would be in a position where Will Levis could start immediately, depending on how Davis Mills and Will Levis, the quarterback competition, works out in the preseason. But Will Levis is not a guy for me that should start day 1. He's a guy that needs time. And that's where we could start to see the benefits of Will Levis.
If you want to go with the toolsy quarterback, go with Anthony Richardson. I don't
There it
know
is.
why you would select Will Levis, who you have the same questions. Are they going to be able to come to the NFL and be accurate? That's really the biggest question between both of these guys. And with Anthony Richardson, at least you know he could come in and immediately elevate your rushing game and be one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL.